Was Jesus born in a stable?
If you close your eyes and imagine the birth of Jesus, chances are you will see a stable in your mind's eye, which has been shaped by centuries of art depicting his birth in a Western-style stable made of wood. Where did this idea that Jesus was born in a stable come from? And is it accurate? The answer hinges on Luke 2:7. Luke uses the word kataluma in Greek, and this word does not mean commercial inn, it means guest room or simply space. Luke knows the Greek word for commercial inn, pandokion, and he uses it in the story of the Good Samaritan. If Luke had intended to write an inn and an innkeeper into the story of Jesus' birth, he certainly could have just written pandokion. In fact, Luke also uses the word kataluma or guest room when he writes about Jesus sending the disciples to prepare the Last Supper in the guest room. In this part of the world at that time, a common house style was a one-room house, and hospitality was so vitally important in their culture because it was so important to God that every house had a small guest room built onto it, either on the side of the house or on the roof. In the West, for centuries, Luke 2:7 has been translated as inn, and this unfortunate translation choice has had a profound effect on the art and nativity sets that we have all seen about the birth of Jesus. At the time Jesus was born, scholars say that the town of Bethlehem was probably not even big enough to support a commercial inn. Thankfully, some modern translations are correcting Luke 2:7. So, how does it change our picture of the birth of Jesus if there was no inn and if Mary and Joseph were not turned away by an innkeeper? And spoiler alert, it's pretty clear to Bible scholars that Jesus was not born in a stable either. We have to come back to the one-room style house to make sense of what Luke tells us with the historical context. The animals were kept inside the house for their safety from the elements, from predators and thieves. The house would have two levels. The lower level was where the animals stayed at night, and there was a raised platform with steps up to it where the family would eat and sleep and live. There were mangers carved out of the platform level so that the animals could simply stand up and reach their clean food. We know that Luke's original audience would have been very familiar with this style of one-room house with a guest room. So, when they heard Luke say that Mary wrapped Jesus in cloths and laid him in a manger because there was no guest room available for them, they would have immediately understood, oh yeah, if she laid him in a manger, that means they were in an ordinary one-room house with the manger in the living room. And their guest room was already being occupied by other travelers there for the census. So, instead of Mary and Joseph and Jesus being met with a lack of hospitality, it's likely they could have knocked on really anybody's door in all of Bethlehem. Joseph, being a member of the line of David, and this being the city of David, would have had probably all the doors open to him. The host of the house they approached already had guests staying in the guest room, so the host of that home probably said, "Come on in and stay with us in our living room." This was the height of hospitality, to be invited to stay indefinitely with the family in their own living space. So, the Forgotten Nativity shows Jesus being born in a warm, hospitable house with a host family right there in their living room. You can see how the manger is on the platform, the animals are there on the lower level, and with this understanding, Mary and Joseph were not alone, and Jesus had a warm welcome into the world. If you would like to learn more about what has shaped the Forgotten Nativity, you can find more resources at Honest Imagination. If you haven't already, order your copy and spread the word, and nurture lifelong faith in your kids with historically honest Bible stories.